Now, all eyes are going to turn to the World Grand Prix this weekend as the final event before the cutoff, the Belgian Darts Open in Visa, will take place. Still quite a few players who could sneak into the field, most notably Ross Smith, who is just a winnow behind Roby John Rodriguez entering the weekend, and Roby John Rodriguez won't be in Belgium. Well, maybe he'll be in Belgium, but he's not in the field in the event, at the very least. His brother, of course, is. But of those players who provisionally are in, who do you think most needs a run before Leicester?
Well, look, you can probably discount Gerwyn Price, can't you? Because he's just won the World Series finals, and I don't think he's going to be playing this weekend. I think he said in one of his interviews that he's going to be skipping the Euro Tour this weekend. And myself and our guest co-host Andrew Sinclair last week, we were talking about the buys, the withdrawals that we've had in the Euro Tour this year, a lot of them, and looking at the players that are in the field for the World Grand Prix. I mean, one of the players I'll give a mention to, Ryan Searle. I mean, you look at the back end of last year, made that major final, got so close to beating Peter Wright in Minehead. And okay, this year we've seen him make a final and win a title on the floor. But as far as stage results, it's not probably been what we expected from Ryan Searle this year. He's been in all the European Tour events this year, and he's had one quarter final. That's been his best run so far. And yeah, I think he'll be someone that will be wanting a good run on stage this weekend to take into Leicester, because last year the World Grand Prix had a good run getting to the quarterfinals. So as we come into this back end of the year with a lot of events, I think he'll want to get a good run this weekend just to take into the World Grand Prix and trying to get back to the form, the results that he was showing towards the end of last year when he did come so close to being a major champion. But aside from that, as you say, it's the last event before the cut-off for the World Grand Prix. It's also the penultimate event before the cut-off for the European Championship, and some of these players that are in the field, we're not going to see them in the last Euro Tour event. And Adrian Lewis is one of those players. This is going to be his last chance to get into the European Championship. I think he's around £5,000-6,000 off the cut-off, so he's in need of a good run. And you also look at the race for the World Championship. Of course, Adrian Lewis, he'll be there regardless, but will he be a seeded player or will he be on the Pro Tour list again? I think he's 32nd on the provisional list at the moment on the order of merit. So any good run he can have now to make sure he is a seed, avoid that first round, he'll be looking forward. Andrew Gilden as well, someone that has impressed this year. He's currently in 32nd spot for the European Championship, the last spot at the moment. This is going to be his last Euro Tour event of the year as well. So he'll need a couple of wins to just cement that spot in the European Championship and make it a nicer watch for the last Euro Tour event when he's seeing potential players jump him. And Chris Dobie as well. He has got that cushion of being in the last Euro Tour event, but he's in 31st spot, so he'll want to have a decent run. And Kim Huybrechts as well, another one that's not in the European Championship. This is his home event, home crowd. He'll want to have a good run regardless, but to get into the European Championship as well, he'll want to have a good run. And yeah, he's looking pretty good for the World Grand Prix. I think $6,500 clear of Ross Smith, who, as you say, he's the one that everyone's going to be keeping an eye on this weekend because he just needs one win to jump Roby John Rodriguez for that spot. And looking at who else has qualified for this event, players that are going to be needing a good run to sneak into that World Grand Prix, you're looking at someone like a Vincent van der Voort, Ryan Meikle, Keane Barry, Simon Whitlock, Mervyn King, players that are in the field for this weekend, not in the field for the World Grand Prix, but more than capable of going on a deep run, making that final session. And yeah, there could be a few players nervously watching on Sunday night.
Yeah, and most of those players you mentioned further down will need a title. Ryan Meikle would only need a final to crack into the field, but he's also chasing a spot in the European Championships, currently in one of those last few spots. But even if he can't make the final here to get into the World Grand Prix, just winning a couple matches will do him wonders to get to the European Championship. Vincent van der Voort, of course, only needs a quarterfinal. But of the players currently needing a run, you mentioned most of the ones I wanted to mention. I've said this the last couple of times we've had a question like this. Ryan Searle, his stage game just hasn't been there. And even when it has, it's disappeared the next match. When he's put together those performances that we got so used to seeing from him, those ton-plus averages, the next match, the next day, he's averaging 85. And that's not the Ryan Searle that has been climbing up the rankings over the past year. That said, even before breaking through, Ryan Searle was a player who would look $1 million for a few months and then disappear for 7 months, and then would look $1 million for a couple months and then again disappear for 7 months. And even he said he wasn't sure why that was the case. Maybe this has just been one of those times where he's disappeared. But if he wants to reappear in time for the big events at the back end of the year, this is when you need to start performing. And maybe the break, maybe that month off will have helped him. We will see. But he is definitely in need of a big run because his Pro Tour ranking will start sliding. And if his Pro Tour ranking starts sliding, then the pressure will be on for him, not just to defend the money to stay near the top 16, but even to get into the big televised events next year. Beyond that, some players who I think might run here, I've got to say Dave Chisnall. Chizzy's, as things currently stand, the 16th seed. Who knows if that'll be the case after Goran Price and other people inevitably withdraw. But Dave Chisnall, he's the 16th seed. He's currently the number 16 player in the overall order of merit, and he's just barely in the top 16 of the Pro Tour order of merit. There aren't any more Euro Tour qualifiers for this year, but finishing the year in the top 16 of the Pro Tour order of merit would put him in the seeds. I think he needs a run, one, to give him confidence heading into the World Grand Prix, but two, to solidify that spot in the top 16 of the Pro Tour order of merit. He's less than 10,000 pounds ahead of Martin Schindler, who's in 17th. And Johnny Clayton is just outside that in 18th as things stand. But Johnny Clayton's the type of player who, if he won the title in an event, you really wouldn't be that surprised. In fact, you almost expect him to have a good run every single event. So Chizzy's spot in the top 16 of the Pro Tour order merit, as well as the overall order merit, is hardly secure. And I think a big run to get him confidence entering Leicester, as well as to keep that top for him right now. And, I'll also say, I mentioned Johnny Clayton. I'll mention him again for that same reason, to get back to the top 16 of the Pro Tour order of merit, where his ability and most of his performance merit him being, but the results haven't been there this year. And that's why he's dropped out of the top 16 of the Pro Tour order of merit. Johnny Clayton will be one of the favorites in Leicester, even if he goes out second round in Belgium. But a deep run like he had this past weekend in the Netherlands will just re-solidify that he has re-solidified himself as one of the top 4, 5, 6 players in the world. But doing it in a ranking event is key. That's where he's always done less than he has in the non-ranking events. So doing it now when it matters, putting that 25,000 pounds on the ranking order, getting back to the top 16 of the Pro Tour order merit, that has to be the goal for the Ferret in Belgium. And we'll see if he can do it.